such a time as this.
And welcome back to For Such a Time as This, the place where there is no such thing as a silent witness. We are discussing end times today because there are a lot of things that are going on in the world that we believe may have direct biblical significance in the end times. As always, I have with me Rick. Rick, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Rick is our resident eschatological scholar, and we're going to go through some things. But before we do that, hey, we're trying to sidestep the algorithm and the shadow banning that we oftentimes face here for such a time as this. Because of that, we have some sponsors who are going to help with some digital advertising. One is Kitchen and Bath. They are located in the Chicago area, in the Arlington Heights area. That's their address. That's their phone number 847-348-0066. We know these people. We know the owner. Good guy. If you have anything that's pertaining to remodeling, kitchen and bath, you want to go to Prestige Kitchen or Prestige Kitchen Prestige. Prestige is great. Again, you deal with a godly man. And also, Full Armor of God is a Christian T-shirt. Buy that anywhere online, anywhere in the United States of America, dare I say the world. They're Christian T-shirts that will witness without you opening your mouth. Beware, only the strong can wear these T-shirts. Just beware of it. FullArmor.shop is where you want to go. All right, with that said, Rick, we'll get into it. Here's the first one. We're going to do an update just to let you know what's going to happen here. We're going to give you an update on what's going on in the Middle East, and then I'm going to discuss the rapture from a post-millennium perspective. But
Post-trib or post-millennium?
I'm sorry, post-trib. Pre-trib, pre-mill, post-trib. All right? I'm so confused. I'm confusing myself. Pre-mill, post-trib.
Okay.
After the 7-year tribulation, I believe that the rapture takes place. All right, with that, here's the first update on the Middle East. Here we go.
This morning, American fighter jets and a submarine sending a message, striking back against Iranian-backed Houthi rebels.
It looks like they not only went after the sites where they launched these Iranian-supplied weapons, they went after multiple, if not dozens, of storage facilities. Pentagon officials say the U.S. and British military launched retaliatory strikes against more than 60 targets in Yemen using Tomahawk cruise missiles. New video shows warplanes taking off from the USS Eisenhower, carrying out strikes on coastal radar sites, drone and missile storage, and launching locations. Earlier, the White House warned the Houthis could bear the consequences if they do not stop attacks on commercial shipping in the Red Sea.
We're going to do what we have to do to counter and defeat these threats that the Houthis keep throwing up on commercial shipping in the Red Sea.
The response follows an attack on Tuesday when the U.S. and U.K. shot down 18 drones and 3 missiles from the Houthis. Since mid-November, the Pentagon says Houthi fighters have attacked 27 commercial ships in the Red Sea, where 15% of the world commerce passes through. The Houthis claim their strikes are in retaliation for Israel's war in Gaza and warned any U.S. attack will not go without a response from the Iranian-backed rebels.
We've done everything we can to deter this, but it obviously did not work, and the choice was up to Iran. So I do think Iran will likely amp up it through its proxies, of course.
In a statement, President Biden saying he will not hesitate to direct further measures. This all.
Apologize for some of the background noise. Rick, what's going on here? It sickens me. It sickens me how weak this administration is.
Well, they changed their position from last week because Kirby said last week is all these ships, aircraft carriers, we're just here for a defensive purpose. We're just going to stop their attacks. And now I'm so thankful they upped up the ante and said, all right, now we're going to come and we're going to start to take out some of your installations, your armaments, your thing. But it can't be a one-time. These people don't understand anything except 100% blatant force.
Yeah, and they understand that the administration that's in the White House now is not prepared to use everything at our disposal. It just sickens me, and I think, again, I still ask the question when any of these things happen, I ask the question, what did the Bidens get paid for? What did they get paid for? Why was those millions and millions of dollars funneled through businesses owned by Hunter Biden? I'm sorry, I can't get past that. I can't get past it. Whenever I look at this ineptitude and these people firing on our military, I automatically go back to that. I automatically always go back to that. What do you get paid for? What do you get paid
Exactly.
for? All right, here's the second clip. Here we go.
The operation that dealt the biggest blow to Hamas took place in the center of Gaza. The most critical operation of the day, which I mentioned at the beginning of the video, took place in the center of Gaza. With the start of the operation, which was jointly organized by the Israeli Air Force and drones, it was seen that a large number of drones were gathering images in the center of Gaza. Hamas uses the health and education complexes in the area as its headquarters and fires a large number of rockets from them. We also saw this in the first days of the war. We know that there are headquarters and tunnels coming out from under the health complexes. In this process, it was observed that Hamas was preparing a major attack on 2 points. It is worth mentioning that the images of the unmanned aerial vehicles publish the operation images in official sources. Unmanned aerial vehicles continue to take images from the region, and after a flight of about 45 minutes, 2 targets were marked. After 2 targets were marked, fighter jets took action with full ammunition. The warplanes simultaneously carried out 41 attacks in the region, and there were huge explosions in the region. Hamas's rocket systems were hit, causing huge explosions and detonations. After the targets were destroyed, Israeli forces moved into the area for control and investigation. In the process, a major report was published. Exactly 748 Hamas rocket launcher systems and thousands of rockets were destroyed as a result of the attacks. I can say that the attack eliminated Hamas's biggest attack power. After the successful conclusion of the operation, I can say that Hamas's attack power is almost over. Because after the targets were destroyed, it was observed that only 4 rockets attacked the Israeli forces.
Okay.
So, northern Gaza is almost 99% under the control of the IDF.
You said 99%?
99%. They've mopping it up. As a matter of fact, 2 brigades are leaving Gaza, going home to rest, and getting prepared to go into southern Lebanon.
So they're taking a little rest before they take the heat north.
Right. So northern Gaza is pretty much under control. What's good is all these places they've destroyed, all these weapon depots, and destroying a lot of weapons and missiles. And here, what was 748 missile launchers. So Hamas is running out of missiles and ammunition. The southern in Khan Yunis, they're still looking for the military leaders. Sinwar and his cohorts, and the hostages too.
They're in the tunnels.
They're in the tunnels, and you know what? They think they find all the tunnels. They go into another building, see another shaft, and then there's multiple tunnels that they never even knew went there before.
And is that the reason why they're not flooding the tunnels? 'Cause they're still looking for the hostages.
I have not heard anything on what they're flooding or not flooding. That was in northern Gaza. I thought it started, but I haven't heard any updates on flooding the tunnels and stuff as of right now.
All right, here's the next video, and our update on the war over in Israel.
The Houthi strikes have imperiled transit via the Suez Canal, which connects the Mediterranean to the Red Sea and serves as the shortest route between Europe and Asia, accounting for approximately 12% of total global trade. Many maritime companies had also chosen to cease operations in the Red Sea. Last night, U.S. and U.K. warships directly targeted U.K. and U.S. Navy assets with 18 UAVs and 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles fired by Houthi terrorists in Yemen at a critical maritime corridor in the Red Sea. While the U.S. and U.K. Navy successfully repulsed the attack, the U.S. military said that it was the 27th attack on international vessels in the Red Sea since November 19th. The U.S.-led coalition forces then launched the first and largest wave of strikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. F-35s and F-16s from the U.S. and U.K. aircraft carriers damaged hundreds of Houthi structures, observation towers, missile launch pads, drone sites, and ammunition stores during the operations, which were focused in the governorates of Sana'a, Hodeida, Sada, and Damar. Several explosions happened in Yemen in the early morning hours. While it was claimed that there were thousands of Iranian...
Okay.
So again, this was it was similar to the first video. They gave a lot more details on what America and the British did to these sites, but it's interesting that even the day after we did this, now they just attacked another American.
So the day after we supposedly struck a blow to them, the very next day they continued to fire on us and our allies.
And they hit one of an American ship, oil tanker.
American ship. This is
that brazen? Is this
This is just ridiculous. Whatever.
You would think, and maybe Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, after they see what the Israelis did to Gaza, and they say, "Hey, yeah, we're all right with that. We dare you. We dare you to come over here."
Yeah. All right, here's the next one.
Bulk carrier Gibraltar Eagle was heading west when maritime radar picked up 3 unidentified objects fired in its direction. One found its target, hitting the hold, starting a fire. The latest strike on maritime shipping and world trade mounted by the Houthi militia. MV Gibraltar Eagle left port in South Korea on Christmas Eve, loaded with steel, and sailed west for the Suez Canal. At 10 a.m. UK time, it reversed course and was hit by a missile 3 hours later, 100 miles south of the port of Aden. It turned off its transmitter, or went dark, a few minutes later. This attack comes a few days after a mass strike by US and UK forces on the Houthis' infrastructure. That action designed to deter and degrade these attacks.
Yeah, efforts to deter. It didn't deter much.
No, it doesn't seem like it did. And the reason, I'm not real familiar with the geography of that territory, but these maps were good. It shows the importance of the Suez Canal.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can see why it's such an important trade route.
Absolutely, and they know it too. A strong leader simply puts it out. You claim that the Houthis are rebels within your country. If you can't control your country, guess what? We can. We're invading the next time a missile is fired from Yemen and hits an American ship. How about that? You lose your country. Because I guarantee you, if we had a strong president, I guarantee we'll stop it if we go in and take it out. And look, I'm not for America to have all these wars around the world.
Exactly.
Right? But for this is it. This is worthy right here. I'll just turn the whole country into parking lot, man.
Yeah. What was so good about President Trump is that no wars were started under his administration.
Because they thought he would fight back.
Because, his word, he says, if you do that, I'm going to do this. And they knew he was going to do it.
Yep.
And he got rid of ISIS. And so a big stick, when they believe you, that they'll hold back. But I don't know. You could destroy 90% of Yemen, and they'd still say, "Hey, we're not giving up. We're still coming after you."
But then destroy the last 10%, then, Rick. Yeah. Here's the last one. Here we go.
To date, over 14,000 rockets have targeted Israel, with thousands misfiring and landing in the Gaza Strip. 136 hostages remain in Hamas captivity, including 25 who have already lost their lives. For each and every hostage, time is running out. We emphatically call on world leaders and international organizations to demand the hostages' immediate and unconditional release. This flagrant violation of international humanitarian law is deserving of international outrage, and no one can justify their silence in the face of such inhumanity. We now draw our attention to the most recent assault on Israeli civilians. Yesterday, 2 terrorists from the Palestinian town of Bani Naim, just south of Hebron, perpetrated a barbaric attack against innocent civilians in the leafy suburban city of Ra'anana.
So the attacks against civilians, such as October 7th that started this whole thing, they're still doing it. Hasn't stopped. Is that right?
Hasn't stopped, and they've stopped a lot of them that haven't come, haven't happened. But
And who exactly did he say? Hamas
Hamas.
did that? How is Hamas able to do that when? And where was this? This was where, on the southern border?
No, this was, I think it was in the West Bank.
Uh-oh.
So yeah,
Israel
there's
has to go into the West Bank and clear that out.
there's
That's gonna be a lot.
I think they're going to start going from house to house and start looking
That's
for.
a lot in the West Bank, though.
Yeah, I know.
Because they're intertwined and intermingled
Right, with the Jewish and
with the Jewish
Arab
settlements there.
and the Arab population.
Eesh, that's not good.
No.
Well,
In the World Court, they look at this and they put their. It's like, I see nothing, I hear nothing, I'm not going to say anything. They're totally blind to the atrocities of.
are they blind or are they?
They're willfully blind.
And I think that's the best case scenario, that they're blind. I'm not sure they're blind as much as they're rooting it on. They're egging it on. They want this to happen, right?
Exactly. They do.
Because they hate they hate the Jews.
And it's ramped up. The hatred for the Jews has ramped up all over the world now.
It is. How is this not the end time?
I know.
I don't know. Well, switching gears towards an issue that we're going to try to deal with. Excuse me, I'm clearing my throat. That we're going to try to continue to deal with is the issue of the rapture. The rapture. And so we went over the issue from a, how can we say that? Explain your thing again, Rick. You are
I'm headed toward the pre-wrath position.
Pre-wrath
where
position.
the rapture takes place after the abomination of desolation, before the seventh, before the trumpet. Judgments.
What is that? How is that? Okay, here's my question. Before we get to mine, how is that different than mid-trib?
Mid-trib, it happens immediately after the abomination of desolation.
And yours happens sometime after.
So during the fifth seal, talks about the death of all the martyrs during the tribulation. And so Revelation 6, Revelation 7 talks about the martyrs underneath the altar in heaven. Mm-hmm. The problem is, it doesn't tell you exactly when the abomination of desolation is. We know it's mid. The rapture is not specifically stated, but it is shown after the abomination of desolation.
Yes.
So we definitely know that.
Yeah.
It is not pre-trib. Doesn't happen before the tribulation. But so God, it says in Matthew 24, it says, unless these days be shortened, no flesh would live. Mm-hmm. So the pre-wrath people think that God's wrath begins with the trumpet judgments. So the rapture happens right prior to the beginning of the trumpet judgments. Now, is that a period of 6 months, a year and a half? We don't know how long these judgments are, whether they're week, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Yeah. We don't know that.
Yeah, now the pre-wrath people don't know how long it is, but the post-wrath people know exactly how long it is. 3.5 years.
Well, okay, yeah. So that brings up, it says no man knows the day or the hour, so if you just count the days, then you can figure out the day of the rapture.
I think that's starting the 7th week. No man knows the day or the hour. I got that. All right, so that's it. So if you look at it, I found it and I put it up here, the mid-trib, as you can see it up on there, and then you see the pre-trib. Well, the last one is post-trib view. And when we say post-trib, we are trying to determine when the rapture takes place. So whenever you hear pre, post, pre, mid, pre-wrath, or post, we're talking when does the rapture take place within the 7-year period. So today it's going to be my position that I take. It is the post-trib view. It is the post-trib view. So I don't need a lot of text. Here's what I'm going to bring up. I think Rick brought it up on his to somehow put some things together. So here's the first one. Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1. Now concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ and our being gathered together to him, we ask you, brothers. So again, I want to say this. This is my position. It is an in-house debate. Look at verse 1. Now concerning the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ. And he explains what that is. What is the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ? It's when we are gathered together to him. Right? Because I think some people believe, I know the pre and I think to some extent the mid and the pre-wrath believe that somehow we are gathered to the Lord apart from Jesus Christ's coming. Right? Being gathered together with him. We ask you, brothers, not to be quickly shaken in mind or alarmed either by spirit or spoken word or a letter, seeming to be from us to the effect that the day of the Lord is coming. Again, he defines it, the day of the Lord, that the day of the Lord has come. So from my view, the coming of the Lord, us being gathered together, and the day of the Lord, I think, is the same thing. He continues in 2 Thessalonians, let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come. Which day? The day we just talked about. That day. What day is that? What day specifically is that? That the day in which the Lord is coming, the day in which we are gathered, that which he calls the day of the Lord. That day will not come unless the rebellion comes first. The rebellion clearly is the rebellion of the Antichrist, which is the second Antichrist in history, the first one being Nimrod in Genesis 10. The rebellion. The Antichrist will lead the second rebellion, the second worldwide rebellion against the Lord. For that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first, and then the man of lawlessness is revealed. That's clearly the Antichrist going into the Holy of Holies, right? The Lord is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, proclaiming himself to be God. That's something specific. I think that is going to be something that is different than Nimrod. We're not certain 100% Nimrod did not proclaim himself to be God, but this Antichrist will proclaim to be God. And look at verse 4, who opposes and exalts himself against every so-called God or object of worship. That's why I believe the Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. And we are told that the Antichrist will turn on the whore of Babylon. Why? Because you can't have any other alternative religious system. He's going to turn and destroy the Catholic Church because he has to be the only one on the block. And so again, that date, the coming of the day of the Lord, he names it the day of the Lord, the being gathered together with him, right? That day will not come unless the Antichrist and rebellion comes first. Now, I think that's clear. In my mind, that's clear that it can't be pre. It could possibly be wrath, pre-wrath, somehow when the Antichrist takes power and whatnot. I get that. So Rick and I are close on that. But here's where Rick and I, we we differ. If you look at Revelation 16, the bowls are poured out. First bowl, second bowl, third bowl. And they literally call them what? The bowls of wrath. Fifth bowl. And I think it's after the sixth bowl, right? Revelation 16 says this, and everyone agrees this is Jesus talking. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Who else ever claims to come like a thief? No, it's Christ. Behold, I am coming like a thief. Blessed is the one who stays awake, keeping his garment on, that he may not go about naked and be seen exposed. Jesus clearly, after 6 bowls of the wrath of God is poured out on the earth, he still says, I am coming like a thief. He hasn't come yet. He hasn't come yet. And so sometimes the argument goes that the Lord will not pour out his wrath on the church. I agree. Read Revelation 16. The bowls of wrath specifically says, well, some of them specifically says it's going to harm only those with the mark found on them. He is not going to pour out spiritual wrath on his people. He's not. It specifically says that. Is it possible, James? Yes, it's possible. How do I know that? Because he did it in Egypt. He did it on Egypt. He poured out judgment on the Egyptians while at the same time protecting his people. So the argument that the church is gone as the pre-trib camp does, and I think to some extent the mid-trib people, the argument that God will not pour out his wrath on the church, I agree. And when he pours out the wrath on the earth, they are protected. They're not going to be touched by Abaddon, which is the 5th and 6th seal, those demonic spirits that torment us. They're not going to touch him. But here in Revelation 16, you have, behold, I am coming like a thief. He hasn't come yet. He hasn't come yet. And what got me, again, in my journey towards this position is I remember I had a seminary professor who turned to at the time I was pre-trib, and he says, okay, so the Lord is going to gather you before the tribulation and after. So isn't that 3 comings? So you believe Jesus is coming back 2 more times? How many comings do you all believe in? And the class got a chuckle, and I was chuckling myself too. And I was like, he got a point. He got a point. We're only told that there's only 1 more coming. We somehow can look at it and say there's 2 coming. No, I don't think there's 2. I think there's only 1 more coming, and that's going to be him coming in the clouds. And again, I just want people to recognize this from my position. Paul tells you that he's going to descend at the sound of a trumpet, right? He says that. John comes along in a fuller revelation and says, yes, Paul is right. We agree. But let me add something to it. It's the 7th trumpet in which he descends. I don't, because we recognize that, and it says the voice of the archangel, right? How can you have a secret coming as this is specifically the pre-trib? How do you have a secret coming with the archangel blowing a trumpet for the whole world to see? How is that a secret coming? That's impossible. There's no secret coming. I think it is the seventh trumpet. That's when Jesus is coming back. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. And he comes back and he sets up his millennial kingdom here on earth. All right, Rick, shoot holes in it. Go.
Well, no, it's a compelling argument.
Is it?
No, it is.
We'll see.
I have to defer to you. It is a compelling argument.
Well,
the main difference is people from the other point of view see them as distinct occurrences. Not
see what is distinct occurrences. I'm sorry.
The rapture and the second coming are distinct. So that would be the biggest distinction that, just general to speak right now. I don't have time to go into it, but they see them as distinct. The
pre-trib people.
Well, the pre-trib. I just want to say this. Of the 4 views, 3 of them are post-abomination of desolation, or after the abomination of desolation.
1, 2,
and
3. Yes.
Yes.
Again, even those 3 views in which we fall in, I still think we're in the minority. That a lot of people have fallen in with the pre because of Darby, because of those Left Behind series, which the Tim LaHaye was a terrible theologian.
I would say
don't
that
even listen to him.
90% of the people
I
are
would say so.
pre-trib. I would definitely say that.
Majority of the people. We are in the minority.
We're in the minority, but the scripture was always in the minority, but it was always right. No, thank you for that. That was, you know what? That was a great generalization of your point of view. That was the clearest presentation I've ever heard of the post-trib, pre-mill rapture. So that was good for me too.
Still hasn't convinced enough people, but it's all right. That's okay.
That's all right.
But you know what? Again, one of the things we said, hey, you know what? Again, here at New Hope, the only thing that we require is that you believe that Jesus is coming back, literally bodily. He's coming back, and there's a literal heaven and hell. All other things will be worked out, and we will see it. I tell my pre-trib friends, I says, when we're being caught up in the air before the 7-year tribulation, I will admit on the way up, you were right, I was wrong. If we're here through the first 3 years, and somewhere in the middle we're being raptured up to heaven, I will turn to Rick and say, Rick, you were right. I was wrong. If we're still here on earth and the bowls are clearly being poured out, I expect Rick and all the pre-tribs to turn to me and say, James, you were right. We were wrong. But regardless of what position you take, as long as you put your faith in Christ,
the finished work of Jesus Christ, and are following Him,
and are submitting from the heart and following Him, loving Him by obeying His commandments, that is a sign of true conversion. Then we will be in heaven, and one day we'll laugh at this together, regardless whether you're pre-mid, pre-wrath, or post-trib. We will be together. And the reason why we do this is I believe these days are coming soon. And nowhere it says we do not know the day or the hour, but it does say we know the season. We know the season. He makes that abundantly clear in Thessalonians. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you, Rick, as always. We'll see you soon. God bless, and Maranatha.
For such a time as this,